Hi guys, this is Lachiponic here with top tier tier's Goblin Slayer set something or other. I don't know what we call these days.
Still
Either
reviews.
way, this is still set review. Let's go with that. This is not quite, it's not timely, but I guess since it's just come out in English and lots of people have probably picked it up with the expectation of it being a great set. Can't hurt to have another look at it. There's already been several very competent reviews, but I think we may as well round it all off and add our 2 cents to the pot. And with me today, I've got actually the same people with the Alberta review. We've got I've forgotten what we're calling people. Prince.
Hello.
Hi, and then we've also got Olive.
Hey.
Yes, so same people. Those guys have all right, look, I'm just gonna assume they played a set because they volunteered for it.
I maxed it.
Yes. And we've done the thing where we point out all of the cards that are worth talking about. And look, this is not a coincidence. We've managed to highlight every single card worth playing from the set, with the exception of, well, there are some exceptions, but I think everyone needs some room to explore. And I shouldn't need to say it at this point, but we've got Tim Tom, my gracious co-host,
Hello.
here as well. He is here as well. Either way, Goblin Slayer itself is primarily a red deck with some. It darts into blue for some late game stuff in every quote unquote meta build, although the late game stuff differs from build to build. And then you've got yellow, which is mostly standalone. And the common consensus, and my opinion as well, is that yellow is kind of a budget deck. It can be strong when it goes off, but it's mostly not.
There might be like an argument for possibly splashing yellow in the main deck too.
Yeah, I think people have tried it, but the fact that no one's continued to try it
Yeah.
is just
I don't know
what
how
ends up
effective it
happening is that
is.
you just don't end up using the cards. They're just in the deck. Either
It's
way,
really
yeah,
matchup
we can
specific.
talk about it. But the red blue decks, both variants, I should say, are quite popular and strong. And the ones that's most appropriate for your meta can certainly vary. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's talk about yellow first. So last time we had everyone put in their 2 cents as to what the best yellow cards are. Here we've just kind of covered the decks in their entirety. And we're talking about the highlight cards of the decks. So the first card to come out here is High Elf Archer, Natural Born Adventurer. She's level 3 yellow. She's not actually the marquee level 3 of the set, despite being the double R. She has the ability to come in play and bounce one of your opponent's characters if you pay the extra 2 stock, which is always appreciated, though this is pretty expensive. And then it has the Musashi effect. So on the turn it's played, you can, when the opponent cancels damage dealt by this, you can mill a card and then deal X damage, where X is that card's level +1. So you're always dealing at least 1 damage. So why'd you guys put this card here? Tell me.
If you wanted to splash yellow, it's probably the easiest card to justify splashing yellow. Like super plug and play.
Yeah, Goblin Slayer lacks a lot of really good CXless finishers as well. So
Yeah.
this is something.
Yeah, it's also just it's an answer for like some of the big wall strategies that may or may not end up being more popular in the meta now, like Aobuta and Fujimi when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty expensive though, as you said. But I think maybe like if you're able to like do well at like level 2, you can usually maybe afford to play this at 3 when if it's necessary.
I'd also like to point out this is really good in some Goblin Slayer mirrors. They've got a powerful endgame card which requires a full field, so this can put a damper on those plans.
Yes.
Yeah, card's just it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Goblin Slayer usually has the stock. If it's as long as it's not playing the Priestess version, it usually has the stock at the top to afford to play it. So
Yes, it is largely a compression deck, so if it needs to, it can play it, but it kind of wants to keep the compression most of the time, or at least that's how I feel whenever I've played the deck in any capacity.
I think like if your like pieces are able to like stick a couple of turns, then it's not terrible idea to be able to. It's not unfeasible to be able to play this when you hit 3.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, powerful splash card. But I wouldn't call it, a reason to play this set or anything. It's a bunch of good effects on a solid enough body. Like the fact that it's also a pseudo finisher means it's pretty decent, and it also works well with direct lanes. So yeah, that 2 cost is staring at me there.
Yeah, if it was
Yeah.
just like on play, draw, drop, bounce, or whatever, draw one, get 2, or bounce, get power, or whatever, I feel like it'd be a lot more appealing.
Kind of weird that it's 2 cost.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah,
Maybe I feel like they didn't know how to balance out a Musashi.
Yeah, I think
Clearly.
they still overrate Musashi to this day, but All right, next card. It's a level 0 this time. High Elf Archer, challenging the unknown.
Why
So
is she
this
look
is a level.
different here?
Yeah,
Hmm?
the art's very different.
Her eyes just.
It's
Yeah,
the manga
she's
art, I think, as opposed to the anime art, because they did that for some of them.
yeah.
She's a
Some of
Yeah,
them are
sister.
like that.
based on how they did the background, they either chose anime art or manga art, which kind of throws it off a little bit.
Right, so this card is first and foremost, it's a runner, which means it's one of the best cards to splash yellow with, if that is something you'd like to do for the aforementioned Musashi. The other ability it has is it can return characters from your waiting room to gain soul. So this ability has historically been fairly good in one deck, but that deck is also one which searches 2 characters out of its deck routinely. So I think it's a lot less strong here, personally.
I
But
think all it does is cost
get
this
soul.
card 500 power.
Oh, it gives it soul. Like this is a
It's
perfectly
like
fine thing to do turn 1, for example.
It's also decent late game, I think, but
In fact, I like it turn 1 actually. It's kind of good because it gives you either pushes damage or makes your opponent cancel. That's pretty decent.
if you
But being a
have 2
1/5,
characters to shove back turn, that is
yeah,
also
but
like a,
that's not too difficult, I think. You drop a lot of stuff in this deck digging for your combo.
I
And
mean, like, this card's just honestly good card. It's just really overshadowed by like the red plussing 0 option.
Yeah.
That card's just
Also,
like
yellow
so much
sucks,
better. Yeah, yellow also sucks, so it's like I
Yeah.
don't really care to splash it. Because like even the Musashi, even though we said it was a pretty good card, it's so hard to find room for that card amongst the other like red and blue cards that you want to be playing. And
Mhm.
it's like it's just not worth. It's not worth making the drop from the dropping the chaser for this card to do it.
It's all about the meta, right? Like if your meta is dominated by people who play Al Buddha because they like losing, then yeah, you might consider playing this card and the level 3 yellow to get a bit of a leg up on them.
Yeah. Pretty
That
much
being said,
only play this if you're gonna splash Musashi, I think.
yeah, but if you splash Musashi, you don't really have a better yellow splash option, right?
Yeah, that is true.
All right, next card is High Elf Archer, Prideful Forest Dweller. It's a 1/05k with an interesting symmetrical ability. No player can play an event from hand if they've already played a card with the same name that turn. So that means you can't spam, for example, the toilet event, that annoying girl. You can't spam Torch, kind of a relevant one. You can't spam Calling Card. And I think those are probably the main ones, right?
Move gear, I guess.
Yeah, move
Yeah.
gear.
That's true. Move gear.
That
you
was
can
like
have
one of the
multiples of.
ones everybody was like laughing at when the set originally got
Yeah,
announced.
but this doesn't stop them from playing the first one.
No,
And
it does
when like
not.
you're attacking with a 6k, then like,
Cards like
okay.
yeah, versus AOT, you're just upset anyway. But
It's
like
so
I don't know, this card's pretty neat though. There's a couple people that were at like my locals and stuff that played with this card because they didn't want to spend on the Goblin Slayer.
Well,
Understandably.
quick thing. Can I talk about can I read the climax combo first?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, we haven't got
When the battle opponent is reversed, if you've got one of the shot triggers in the climax zone, you can mill 3 and then return up to X order characters from waiting room to hand, order being the universal trait, where X is the number of soul triggers you put in the waiting room this way. So this deck, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's an 8-shot deck, so it's going to have 8 climaxes with triggers and it's quite top heavy if you build it that way. So oftentimes a single play of this will get you 2 characters, meaning you plus just off playing it. And if you have multiples, then well, you're probably done for the rest of the game. And that's, I think, a weakness of this deck in that the cards don't synergize very well. But yeah, go on about how you said people play this because they don't want to spend
Yeah,
absurd
it's
amounts of
like
money on the red combo.
yeah, so they're like, all right, well, I'll just play each shot, and like I've even seen them because it's number of soul triggers. Like I've seen people play stuff like 2 soul like 2 soul triggers, like the stock soul stuff like that. There's a couple neat ones in the set just for this card, and like they kind of use this card as like a build around card as opposed to just part of like the 8-shot build, and it's pretty cool in its own way. It's not like like amazing decks or anything, but they seem pretty fun and pretty functional. I thought this card was neat because like they never printed a card like this at level 1 that could like this card. I mean, this card can plus like realistically, if you mill 3 2 soul triggers, you could plus 6 cards, which is pretty neat.
If
I mean,
But-
there are cards that plus a lot, just not as much as this one potentially can. I think if you're playing multiple soul triggers on cards just for this, you've probably you've missed something somewhere, because one of the features of this deck, and it's actually a card we haven't put here, is the Brainstorm, which generally hits every single time you roll it, because it's like what, 5 cards, and there's
it's
some
6,
amount of
it's
population.
6, and then if you hit a shot, I
Yeah,
think
6. Yeah, you can only get 1 card per use of the Brainstorm, but you hit it so often that if you should just play 8 shot to maximize the Brainstorm rather than this, is what I take away from it. But I mean, if you want a high roll, I'm not stopping you.
I mean, yeah, I
this,
mean
this
it's
combo's
just
very
a
high roll.
fun combo.
This is
Uh,
probably
It's a
okay
neat
with
combo in its own way.
it's okay with pants as well, right? You can like play this with
It's
priests
just
if you
any
really wanted.
trigger
Yeah.
that the pluses. Like
Yeah.
any trigger, any climax of the soul trigger, I mean, is fine.
Yes.
I really
I'm,
hate how low power this combo is, though.
Yeah,
I mean-
6K is so bad.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've been kind
you
of used to
tie
this
with
point.
Union. That's pretty terrible.
There's a lot of cards that are like 6K on reverse combos at this
Yeah,
point.
they can well, a lot
And,
of
like-
cards are 7K, right? That's
Oh,
more common.
7K is like the standard of power.
I don't think it is. Like I think 7K is like a luxury that like we just look at most of the best combos and they're 7K, so we just
Sure.
take that as like a thing.
But like,
But then there's a lot of
6K is
combos.
just
Are we
6K
not
is just
assuming people
dumb
are
middle
gonna play
ground.
Well, I mean,
decks though?
well, no, I mean, there's just a lot. Like they print a lot of combos that are like just fine on reverse combos that are 6K.
Like,
I think like
which one?
I mean like they're like a lot of the Marika profiles are 6K, right? Like
Well,
just
which
generic Marikas.
good decks play those?
I'm not saying like the good decks play them. I'm just saying like they are just like
Well, no,
generic
he's
good
right.
combos.
Well, I mean, even if
He's
we look
right.
at, let's look at a recent. I mean, which market profile are we thinking? I'm just curious.
I guess Kaede.
I mean, Kaide's 55,
possible.
but that one like if Kaide can
Kaide
get
would
reverses at
probably
a
be like
55, right?
Probably Kaide would probably be like 6'5", right?
No, not usually. You're not really standbying a card that gives it power. Like you're just
and you're also not. Well, I guess this is the same as Kaide in that you only. I guess.
yeah, like it's.
But
I can't think of any off the top of my head because I can't really think about newer sets that have come out recently. But
I do think that in slightly, a slightly less cutthroat environments, you can get by with lower power levels. Like Yuki, for example, is obviously she doesn't need to reverse anything, but she's kind of low powered. Then you've got a lot of low powered Maguro combos that are all playable. Maybe not fantastic, but certainly playable. It's not a card that I'd want to play at like a WGP level, but I mean, it's a fine card. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, we can move on, I think.
Yeah.
All right. That's definitely not what this card does.
oh,
This is
oops.
this is like
Dwarf man.
Stone Slinger Dwarf Adventurer or something. He's a 3/2 10k. When he comes to play, either from hand or by the effect of the Lizard Man, who has an ability to summon him to play, you can draw 2, ditch 1. And then when this attacks, if you've got the other shot climax in the climax zone, you may pay 4. If you do, for this turn, the card gains 3k power, and then you mill 5. Then you deal 1 damage for each for each soul damage, soul trigger you milled this way. So the idea here is to double dwarf, and then your opponent dies. They're just
Yeah.
dead. I don't know what else to say. That's literally it. It's pay a bunch of
12
stock, your
stock?
opponent dies.
This-
Or 10
Yeah.
stock? 10 stock? Sick.
Depending on how you,
Assuming
but
you
it's
just
like-
go shitter and then
you need
those
you need
2
11
That's-
stock because you have to pay up front.
Oh, wait, you're right.
Yeah. So this
Wait,
card
you,
is like
you go 12, 10, attack, pays for the last one.
yes.
Wait, is that with the
12
lizard
12
man?
stock pays for both immediately,
Mhm.
like on play, so you can leverage the
yeah.
2 stock on attack. So it should be 10.
Yes. So it should be noted you can do this in any sort of attack configuration, so your opponent can't counter away one of them if you side. This is the reason you play 8 shot. Just build up a crap ton of stock, and then your opponent dies. That's about it.
Yeah, this combo's actually terrifying when they resolve it.
Yeah, like if your opponent cancels a little bit and they enter level 3 with, like, if they're like 2-5 with 12 stock, and you're just kind of sitting there knowing you're about to die. It's quite worrying. I don't have a lot to say about this because it's a very powerful finishing combo. But it's also kind of boring. Like, there's not a lot to say about it. It's consistent, it's high power, but you've got a high entry fee rather.
Yeah, I just thought it
If
should
only-
be on here because it's a pretty cool card.
If only the
Really,
rest
really
of the deck
different top
supported it better.
No, it's absolutely worth being on this list because it's so powerful. I just don't know what to say about it. Like, what else can I say, right?
You can just read it. You can just see how powerful it is just from reading it.
Burn ones are cool, unless you're playing against Kimono.
Yeah,
That would be depressing.
yellow's a color.
Oh, or you could be playing against Charlotte in the near future.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's move on to a good color. So, Goblin Slayer, Precise Battle Tactics. I know that's not what Heart of the Cards calls it, but that's the English name, and I'm sticking to it. If you have 2 or more other order characters, this is 6k base, which is a nice power threshold. And when this attacks, if you've got the life and death struggle gate in your climax zone, and you have another character, you can either search. Look, I don't think that has ever come up in the history of Weiss Sports for anybody, right? I sincerely doubt that has ever mattered, ever. Choose 1 copy of Torch in your waiting room and add it to hand, or choose a copy of Torch from your deck and add it to hand. So this is a very obvious combo. It just attacks and pluses, and Torch is... We have to talk about Torch. So there's 2 versions of Torch. The trial deck version is the version that is more immediately obviously powerful, which is check top 4 cards of your deck and add an order character you find there to hand, the rest go to bin. So this is like a very delayed Margaro in a sense. But it's also important to note that that card is a counter, so you can do it on your opponent's turn. And there are a couple cards which care about you playing events, so that can be relevant. I don't think it's super relevant, but yeah, whatever. The other card is, I think, more interesting. It allows you to swap your opponent's field around. I forget the exact text. I'm going to make this bigger.
It,
If you
it
next
control a
card.
Goblin
to
Slayer.
an empty slot.
Yeah.
The next
Yeah.
slide.
No, I already made it bigger. Yeah, so you have to move it to an empty slot on stage. So yeah. There are arguments as to what configuration of Torch is better. Everyone agrees you should play 4 total. And most people are on 3 of the check top 4 and 1 of the manipulation one. But well, things could change. You never know. Look, I don't know what else to say. I really don't. This card is obscenely powerful in that it's so incredibly free. It has a good combo. It has a good climax. It
It gets good cards.
Good timing
Like-
for milling. Yeah, card does
Literally-
like everything you want it to do.
and you can't screw up with this card. Like, the only way you can possibly screw up is choosing to search for torch in your deck when you don't have any left in your deck. That's literally the only way you can screw up. I don't think this is like
Yeah,
an
as long,
idiot.
and as long as you're
almost-
paying attention.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually just almost impossible to whiff this.
It's like idiot proof, super powerful. This is one of the strongest combos in the game, I think.
In
And
a
I
lot
think
of ways,
that,
it sets the standard of power at level 1. Especially like a reasonable. So like, and by standard I mean go to
standard
a
of
tournament.
attacking power. I think.
Attacking power and defensive power.
Yeah, it's
I
6
don't-
it's 6
Yeah,
on
I
think
defense, which is
if
like
you're
what
not
we
able
expected.
to, well, the thing is like, so the meta is just gonna revolve around at level 1 is just gonna revolve around this card. If there are a lot of people playing it, which there are a lot of people. So
Yeah, like the way
if you can't, this is like gatekeeper. It's like it's also gonna gatekeep on top of everything else. Like if you can't really deal with this card, then
yes, especially with the card we'll see later, where it pushes the power boundary up even higher.
Yes.
It just becomes such a suffocating card
Yeah.
to deal with that like most decks don't actually have the tools at level 1 to really like deal with it without like giving up a lot to do it.
And even if you do manage to wall it out, there are cards which just make it so unless you're doing it on multiple lanes or you're using one of the 1/1 can't be reversed by costless characters, it's just very difficult to deal with. And even if you are using one of those 1/1s, you have
Not
to do
beating
some
this card.
work. Sorry?
You're usually not even beating this card with those cards because
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
like low
Like
power.
you're sitting at like 5/5 or whatever. It's really not good enough. The standby version of this deck has a particularly good target for it at level 1, where it like if you trigger a standby on your combo turn at level 1 with that deck, it feels obnoxious to deal with. Like
Mhm.
it's just incredibly frustrating.
There's just so much support around this card too. Yeah, it's like actually just insane.
Well, it's because Torch is obscene. Like
Yeah,
they've
Yeah, I
they've
think
printed a
Torch is pretty
similar
broken.
they've printed similar cards before. Like they've printed the Kasumi, which is nowhere near as big on defense, and they've just printed Sachi and Grisaya, which is I think that is going to be an incredibly powerful combo, but we'll see. But yeah,
I think it's good.
expect to
It's
see
like
lots of this.
it's a bit the advantage searches is worse than Torches, but like combo's just good still.
It is mostly worse, but it does have slightly better
More
selectivity
selection, yeah.
sometimes, which is
Yeah.
relevant.
most of
Now
the
we can
time.
talk about the Torches.
It doesn't mill well. It's not most of the time. It doesn't because like you still have requirements you need to meet, and that only mills 2. This mills 4, which is deck speed matters.
This can also still be used on defense as well.
Well, if you were talking about,
Yes.
I thought we were talking about selectivity.
But yeah, I mean yes, on
Well-
in selectivity, Sachi is usually more selective, I think, right?
Well, yes,
4 versus
It's generally, yeah.
but not being a counter can matter. I mean,
Sure.
I think it matters less than people think it does, but it's not irrelevant.
to Torch.
Oh, Battle Phase Mill is pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. It is quite strong. All right. Let's move to the next card. We did mention this, or we alluded to it quite early. Are we talking about Torch?
Yeah, we can talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk about the torches really quick?
Sure. It's so Torch is I think people commonly call this like what's the Kankole one? Barrels or something? Like
Drum
Torch
barrels.
High's camera. It's just a 1/0 event, mill 4, choose trait, add to hand, rest get milled. This one has the restriction of not being playable without an order character, which is, I mean, not very relevant, but more relevant than you think. And in exchange for that, it gets to be a counter, which is,
Yeah.
it can really be,
DGO had this, just not a good bonder.
or a good shell, unfortunately. This is just it's a strong overall card. Even if Goblin Slayer didn't exist, there's probably an argument to run Torch.
I don't know. There's not enough like. If there's no good way to grab this card, I think this card isn't actually as good. I think because Goblin Slayer exists, this card is appealing.
Deck doesn't really have great mill though.
Exactly.
Outside
Like
of
this
this
I guess
card,
card,
that's
right?
true. Without
this
just
card is solid
smashing
even without
brainstorms.
Goblin Slayer grabbing it, I think.
I don't know.
Um,
I
It's
can't
got a
really
good
look at
color,
it too well in a
too.
vacuum.
Really good color.
Yeah.
You have like
That's fair.
ways to draw it and stuff.
There's
Yeah,
no
especially with
reason
other
to
cards in the
evaluate
set.
in the vacuum, but I mean, it's good in a vacuum and it's good in context. What can I say?
Okay. Other torch.
Next card, 1/0 torch. If your opponent is reckless with their front row and happens to crutch on their brainstorm a lot, like a lot of decks in the game do that. Our Buddha, for example, will often have an empty space because they're forced to ram at some point, and they intend on winning the other spaces, but then you can drag up their brainstorm and sucks to be you.
Yeah, if you're a bad player, bullies bad players.
You're playing our Buddha. I think that's a given.
Well, no, just in general.
Ooh.
And if you crutch on brainstorms, you just get this card can just bully you out.
Yeah, it can definitely bully people who are too reliant on one thing or another. And people who pride themselves on being really resourceful as a player and not needing anything specific, those players are always the ones who crutch on their brainstorm. It's kind of funny, actually. So removing brainstorms is good, even though you go down a card. It's very easy for Goblin Slayer to maintain a few field slots at level 1, and it's even easier if you have the assist I keep alluding to.
Yeah, this can be actually really nice for standby and stuff too, because if they have that empty lane, you can like just shove their card away so you can keep Goblin Slayer alive, and then
Yeah.
potentially protect it on defense. Not super relevant, but I've had it come up once or twice.
This card definitely has some other applications too, but I've been sworn to secrecy, so I'm not going to talk about it here. All right, next card. This is what we talked about when we mentioned a runner. Goblin Slayer, Foregone Conclusion. It's a 0/0 level 1 that can run in front of opponents' cards. This is like the most obnoxious level 0 that they've ever printed.
They also have to front
This
it.
card's
Yeah, they can't
so
side.
annoying to play
Yeah.
against.
So a lot of decks try and
Suffocating.
get like +1 or +2 at level 0 because card advantage at the beginning of the game affects the end of the game. It's just not obvious. And this stops any deck that isn't playing like 3/5s or 4Ks as their +0 of choice. Like this even stops cards like whatchamacallit? Like coin flips.
Sorry.
So anything smaller than 3K is not safe. Goblin
Yeah.
Slayer
Yeah.
will find you and eat your jubblies.
Even if you're if your opponent's playing oversized, there's ways to get this over that threshold too. So
Randomly trigger a standby at 0. Summon
Yeah.
priest is global.
yeah, or if you
So
just
good.
like play the Sword Maiden along with this.
I mean, now you're
Level
just
0.
bullying. Like,
This card just feels like really unfair to play against, and like when you look at plussing zeros.
It shapes the whole 0 game like really it makes the 0 game played very differently than a lot of people are probably used to.
it's pretty oppressive. Like, this card is a lot worse if your opponent goes first and like is a deck designed to try field turn 2. But sometimes those decks have bad draws, and sometimes there's not much you can do about that. I think that you'll see people moving towards 3/5s and 4Ks in English at least, just to deal with this. There are some decks that already play those, like Konosuba already plays 3/5s.
Zero
Um,
at the moment.
yeah, they exist, but
Oh, yeah.
if
At
you have to
0, I
pay
don't think
stock
there
to do
are.
that, like paying stock to do that is as if you've wasted an attack, if you ask me.
Well,
I actually think most of those profiles at 0 are kill level 1. Are kill a level 0. I mean, not even a cost 0.
I think killing
So-
this card would be fine. Fine value. But
I think
obviously
you're better
comes
off
with
aiming to
context.
just try field turn 2, to be honest.
That also requires. I just think.
Yeah, cards pretty obnoxious. I can understand what Tom's saying too. Sometimes just getting it off the board is worth more than letting it sit there and just trying to slam into it and then giving them the plus as well.
Especially if you're going
Yeah.
second.
If you're going second, this card is incredibly obnoxious. I will say that much. Just be a good player and play Konosuba. What else can I say?
Yeah.
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 Or play decks that just have access to a lot of random power at level 0.
Fate
Yeah, like
probably
characters
answers.
with,
Oh
like,
wait, no, never
1/5s
mind.
and
Level
shit.
1. Never
Nope.
mind.
I mean, Fate doesn't care about this
Yeah.
card at all. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
they'd
In
be
Fate's
able
going
to
to
in
be.
fact,
crash and clock
like,
encore.
you know, crashing and then clock on coin, like being doesn't care about this card.
Yeah.
Fate can actually get over this card, by the way. Like if you play the Medusa Bond, you
Oh
just
sure, yeah, it
put
can,
it on
Yeah.
master.
but like it also just doesn't care. So like, what doesn't? Still a good card,
Very true.
but like I think the power
Yeah.
kind of limits how effective it can be once that is prepared for it. But obviously, there's still like a lot of other decks that it'll just.
and it's
Yeah.
warping the meta to play against it as well, which is something.
I mean, all things considered, this design isn't bad. Like it's a
No.
fine card.
It's
In terms of design.
yeah, it's fine.
It makes runners a lot worse, but like decks need to have edges.
If it were
Mhm.
slightly bigger, if it were like 3.5 or 4K, that would be
This
that
card
would
is
be a
gonna
card.
be insane. 35
be a
level 1
card.
chaser. They have to
Woo.
front it? No.
Jesus.
Just can't side
Yeah.
attack and gets like 1K power or something. 500 power? Can't side attack, gets 500 power.
It already can't side attack because
No.
it's part of the effect.
What?
Yeah, it's both players get it.
Oh,
It
well,
drags you into a
give it
duel,
like
man.
can't use events or back. Kappa.
Wait, yeah, that would actually probably hurt the card a lot.
Yeah. I do think that this card is more feels bad than actually oppressive or anything, but it is certainly incredibly powerful.
I mean, especially in an event. Yeah, like you said, if you're not ready for it, and it just pops up, and you're like,
You know, Albuda running vanilla can just kill this.
just tie it.
Yeah,
It
yeah, buddy.
OP.
just needs a
tie.
brainstorm to just kill it outright.
Yeah.
hmm Next card, Cowgirl, Ordinary Piece.
This is a PR. This is a box
Yeah.
stopper.
Assist.
Card's also one of the most expensive cards in the set.
Because it's a box stopper.
Mm-hmm.
Art's
Wow,
really good
so
on it too.
the flavor text is literally just Cowgirl.
Yes, it's
I mean-
just cowgirl. You know,
It's just her name. 'Cause it's like
woo.
it's supposed to be one of those like character introduction things where it's like
Yeah,
person.
yeah. Like
name.
that's why it's called an ordinary piece. She's just a
Yeah.
random pawn, not like
Yep.
an important D&D character or whatever.
Yeah, and there's like the
Goblin
Goblin
Slayer
Slayer
is based
one.
based on Dungeons and Dragons, by the way, in case anyone actually.
Not let anyone else roll the dice.
Yeah, he does not.
Yeah, even
So
the whole
this
opening
box
song is that
stopper-
too.
Yeah, when you play it from hand to stage, check top. If it's an order character, add it to hand, ditch a card from hand, and then you can discard an order character from hand to waiting room when placed from hand to stage. If you do, you may draw a card.
There's one other card, one other set
Double
that has
R.
this card. Cinderella Girls. Card was criminally underrated.
It's a double
in
R too.
CG.
Feels good.
I mean, I think this card is only particularly good in this set because you can ditch standby stuff early.
I mean, it's
It's like-
good. I think it's good in general. I think
Well, it was
I
good.
think
It was good.
most
in
Not
decks
special.
would like this card.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of
Eh.
sets. I think there's a lot of sets that could like.
Most decks would like
If
this.
they
Card.
had this, they could be like, this is a pretty cool card.
Eh.
There are enough
It helps-
cards. There are enough like climaxes are usually like
Desirable enough.
worth it. Yeah, desirable enough
Yeah.
to draw that I think most modern decks
Yeah,
would
like-
love this card.
Especially in
Big
this
two
deck
cards
where-
towards climax.
Yeah, especially in this deck where like the deck really wants to ride on its level 1 combo. You really need to
Yeah.
get that climax.
I
Card's
do
just
think that the two
really
abilities
powerful.
together make for a pretty strong card. But
It
I
also
also,
finds your events too. Like it's
I also
good.
think rummaging kind of sucks. So like,
I don't. This is like one of those cards like, especially when you're using it in Goblin Slayer, it just feels really powerful to have in your hand most of the time because like, especially and then when you see when it finds you like one like either like one of the events or it finds you the door, especially in Priestess where you crutch on the pants as well. It makes a big difference. Just being able to have access to even finding those cards because the only other card that draws really like towards those kind of cards is the Cowgirl EP. So it's very appreciated. Yeah, good card.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like
Next
having
card.
a little bit of Oh, is he back?
no, just had to talk to my housemates for a sec.
Oh, okay.
Did I miss anything? No.
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 It's a good
Just
card.
good
Card is good. But it's being overrated by everyone. Cowgirl, peaceful moment. See, this card is one that is a lot more practical, in my opinion.
I love this card.
Nah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a
love
lot
it.
more
It's
I love
practical.
time. It's time to disagree.
Look, you guys
Wow.
are
I think they're
like
just different cards.
you guys come from the new school where you don't even know the power of
Oh
Kotomi draw drop from Clanode. So you guys are just overrating these mediocre cards.
I mean,
But
I like
this
this card a lot.
This card's sick. So you can come in. It comes into play, and then it's got 2 ditch abilities to do stuff. So you can discard a climax to get an auto character, which is the more common usage. But then you can also discard a copy of Torch, which is the event we've talked at length about, and get a character. So this is a fantastic card for setup in, well, every Goblin Slayer deck. It's just very powerful. When Torch, or for example, if the Torch you have is the one you don't want, like if you have the Manipulation Torch and you don't want to play it, then it becomes any character in your bin, which is powerful. And of course, it can be a Climax Ditch Out, which is also really powerful. So
Yeah, I think it turning like basically turning level 1 Goblin Slayer into on attack salvage, little delay is like it's like really good.
yeah, it's like
Because I mean, sometimes you get a torch and like
See-
the timing, the opportunity cost.
think
My problem with this comparison is I compare it to another card that's in Fate, the Sakura Bomb.
no, we can
This
we
card
can
is
compare
much worse.
Well, no.
But this
We can
card's also
compare
at
the whole
0, right?
Like we can compare the entire decks. Actually, I was going to make that comparison.
Sure, but what I'm
So,
saying is, it's like the reason why I don't like this card is because one, your torches are like super good to just play in general. Two, this card is like absolute doggy. It doesn't. It's just gonna crash into something probably, or it'll direct and then it'll just die, either giving a reverse, or allowing the opponent a free lane. I don't think that
but-
plays into the strengths of this deck very well at all. That's what I'm saying.
Well, look,
so like,
no, I disagree with that. Actually, I think it actually plays like it is a weakness. I agree with that. Like you can't help your utility cards being weak, but because Goblin Slayer is the way it is, that actually mitigates this card's weakness rather than like enhancing it. If you have to play this proactively, then sure, that's a weakness. But what tends to happen with this card is that you just kind of have it after the combo turn, and your cards have hopefully survived, your Goblin Slayers rather, and maybe one died, who knows. At which point you have direct lanes where this card
then
is.
there's no pressure to set up your hand. If your Goblin Slayer survived, then whatever.
But I mean,
I'm
it's
just
just like
like-
a free,
you
a free
have
sculpt
pressure to set up
though.
your
Like,
hand. You want
But
to
the free
sculpt your hand.
But like, if your field is living, there is much less pressure on your hand to have specific cards. That's what I'm saying.
That's fine,
Like,
but this
you
is still
have
just a
more
ditch out.
turns to get the cards you need, especially the ones you need later. Which is why I'm
Yeah,
saying this
but-
card itself, if there's not like a setup or timing intensive game plan involved, it's just not as good.
I do think this
And
card
it's
is a lot
also
better
not-
in a Priestess, but
Yeah, I would agree it's better in Priestess. I don't think it's very good outside of Priestess.
yeah, like, it's definitely not like super amazing in like the standby or the 8-gate variants compared to Priestess, where Priestess, like Tom said, really wants to sculpt its hand early and has a lot of cards it wants to find. But I just think as like a utility card, if you really felt like you wanted to ditch out, this card can be like really good because sometimes you have to search like the moving torch when you don't want to because whatever one's in stock, whatever, and it just turns that card into a better card in some situations
Mhm.
while still just being a ditch out. Again, you're also playing Pants and Priestess, so that you have more. It's not a lot of time you have more
Drop
climaxes to
Searcher.
ditch.
Drop Searcher also does that.
Does
Yeah, but
Goblin
this
Slayer have
does
a
this
drop
without
searcher?
paying cost.
Yeah,
Like
that's
you
a
can't
pretty
you
good
can't
choice.
make that comparison. This is just better than Drop Searcher in that particular circumstance. And look, depending on the 8-gate build, this is also obscenely powerful in those decks.
Like sometimes you just don't also want to like actually move through your deck with Torch because for whatever reason, you want more. It's like Torch doesn't give you enough selection. Your deck's in a good spot where Torch isn't
So, like,
actually the best card to be playing, right?
I mean, sure. If you're in the only way I would agree with that is if you're in a situation where you lost your playables, Torch needs to find you your playable. But otherwise, I disagree. I don't
that's
think
fine,
I think there's no there's like this card is like so much selection, but it's gonna usually be in decks that are just like brain dead winning board all the time. So like the
Do you
entire
mean-
point of those decks is you win board. There's way less pressure on your hand to like sculpt for like a specific timing, So you're free to like keep a lot of like random cards, especially like cards that are more useful later.
I mean, we could say
Which
this card's
makes
pretty
this
noteworthy
wave-
versus like Fate, right?
Huh?
Like in the Fate matchup where like you can't keep your board as well at level 1, like this is actually like a pretty noteworthy card because it gives you that extra selection towards like playables again.
This
Like,
also
like
does
better
something which
playables.
I'm not saying
no
don't
one's-
play this card at all. I'm saying this card is just like not as good as like some of these other cards we've been covering.
if you
I think
if
I
you
mean I'm a bit
concept.
biased. I just love the Priestess. I like the Priestess deck a lot. So like I like this card a lot more because I'm playing the deck that it's best in. But I mean,
if you ever want to tilt your torch ratios at all, this card is what allows you to do that.
Oh sure, but you know,
I mean,
mean-
it's there's a lot of pluses, and I also think that
there are flaws
You-
with.
you as a
Adjusting-
Fate player are in a position of extraordinary privilege because one, that deck has literal Azza, so everything is suddenly not necessary to think about because you have Azza. And two, that deck is obviously one which can really dominate the board without caring about power level. Like, I think using Fate as measuring stick when there's going to be way more Goblin Slayer than Fate in English, and when this deck is still intact in Japanese. For like, I don't think that's a valid measuring stick anymore. It's this card.
I'm just
I mean,
saying. Well, like I would rate. I'm saying I would rate Sakura maybe like an B plus utility card, maybe like A minus, depending on like whatever. It's like bias or what. This grade's lower, much lower, mainly because it is just not like a functional card outside of its utility.
No, but look, even in that instance, you're comparing a deck whose entire build is based on
utility card.
maximizing stuff.
I wonder
Whereas
why though, right? Like it's because the card is good enough. Like the
Yeah,
card
but this card
synergizes
is good
that-
enough. Like in
I don't think
Priestess, this card is good enough.
This card is not well.
It has
No,
its builds where
I
this
wouldn't
card
even,
is like
but you wouldn't
really
say like
right?
you're building around this card, right?
Okay,
card
dude, this is
just-
not as good as the de facto best level one
Yeah, that's
in
what
a
I'm saying.
deck that had
That's all I'm
to be
saying.
super banned in English, in Japanese.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying this gets
Yeah,
a lower
Okay,
grade.
dude.
But this card
You
has
know, you
its
can-
build, right?
That
It has its zone where this card's like notably a desirable card
It gets
that you want to be including like at least two of in your deck, right?
It gets a lower grade than the previous card, and it gets a lower grade than the other level 0 we covered. And it's because this card needs a specific deck to go in.
But I mean, I feel
require-
like this is
otherwise
like-
you're
I
like
don't think so. I really don't think it
Yeah, I
needs
think
specific
so.
deck
I
to
think
go
it
in.
shines. It shines in a specific build. It doesn't
it's
need
just a
it.
solid utility card, like,
yeah, it's like a B minus.
and it's gonna
card.
be
I can put it
better on more occasions than the card we just talked about in terms of actually
No.
progressing your game plan.
No.
You do not draw your climax
Ooh.
that often from draw drop. It's just incorrect to
It
think
is
so.
draw 2.
Okay.
It is technically a draw 2.
It does dig 2
drop
cards.
2.
Yeah.
It is technically, yeah.
Okay, sure.
As long as you find a character the first time.
I stand by my statement
You
though.
don't really-
Top 2 is really not that likely to get a card. Like,
You're
it's not
playing-
that much more likely. It's already factored in. Like,
You're playing like what, 8 events?
Like
6?
right?
One bounce,
Yeah.
one heal.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
not
if you,
even
if you
checking
check,
it
if you
out.
check a climax, you've already done
I
your
think I
job.
see a lot of
Well, I was more so referring to hitting an event on it, but
look, I mean, with
Cards-
with the previous card, you do the top check thing first every time.
yeah.
Yeah.
in event-based decks, this card's good. I wish Grisaya had this card. I would be like
Are we talking about which one? Peaceful Moment or
the
Ordinary?
the peaceful moment one.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
it doesn't,
if this
doesn't
was-
need it as much because it's actually salvages
Right.
as an event. But like just the extra utility of the card and like being able to refuse milling, alongside a ditch CX is pretty cool.
Yeah, this card's probably
But-
bad in Grisaya. I think the Michiru is better, but like,
I mean,
whatever.
Michiru is just Marika, but Marika's cool. Anyhow,
Whatever. I'm giving these two the same grade. I think everyone is obscenely high on the draw card. Like, I don't
I played the
Hey,
draw
understand
card
people.
in every build,
I-
and I liked it in every build.
At least
so.
I have always liked the card. I've always
Okay.
been a fan.
Okay, dude.
I like the next card.
Yeah, this next card is this is the reason why you can't just wall out Goblin Slayer with stuff.
Nobody plays this
1-0
card enough,
Witch.
but
When there's tax, you can choose up to 2 cards from top of your deck, choose one and put it on top, and then bin the rest. So it's I mean, it stops you from triggering climaxes when you don't want to,
and lets you.
and lets you trigger standby or lets you trigger gates when you do want to. And then it's also level 1 bomb, which is solid. Also, by looking at 2 cards, it's effectively Twin Drive, which is not really talked about very often, but it's very strong.
Twin Drive without
Without potentially getting one, but also doesn't get one stuck, right? All the
I
time.
mean, it's Twin Drive without the chance of double triggering climaxes, but like,
or getting the climax stuck.
I
as the
would
second
not
card
say
you can't
double
pay out.
triggering climaxes is terribly.
No, but it's more like when you trigger the climax as the first trigger instead of the second, so it's harder to pay out. And
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
but the point is that they are comparable enough that I can talk like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Yeah, I love this card. This card was just like my favorite auxiliary level 1 to play alongside Goblin Slayer before I started really crutching on, especially before I started crutching on the Priestess 1-0. This card just feels really good to play with. It just, especially because I was playing Priestess, so the pants became a thing I'd want to actively trigger since I could find more doors. Standby, it's one of the few cards that let you actually trigger standby more often, since Standby Goblin Slayer would prefer to be triggering its standbys, as most standby decks do. It doesn't really get as much benefit from hard playing them as like maybe Albuta does because it's combo.
Yeah.
And this also just it lets you stop decks that are trying to just hard wall out Goblin Slayer, as hard as that is to do. But in like Japanese, there was decks like Milky Homes that could actually wall it out, and I know that it's not very effective because blah blah blah. Milky has good cards, but it just stops it from happening in general.
I've always made the off time like the what's her name, the Ellie that gives +1 level on the opponent's turn, but like, I don't think we need to use Milky Homes as like a detraction point anymore. No one plays that deck. It's like even less present than.
I only brought up Milky Homes because every time I've talked about this card, like somebody would just bring up Milky Homes and be like, "Well, Milky Homes doesn't care." Like, okay, I'm glad. I'm really glad. It's like, oh, this deck stops walls. Well, it doesn't stop Milky Homes. Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
All right, next card is Also Witch. So this is a 3/2 assist. It gives 2k to everything in front. And then it gives you, what's this called?
Damage Scry.
Damage Scry. Yeah, let's go with that. So during your opponent's turn, when you take damage, you can check the top card of your deck and then leave it there if it's a climax, or put in the waiting room. Bog standard standby back row target. Nothing like special about it.
This is one of the cards like Japan played the standby for, I think. So I don't think it was anything like too crazy, but it's like the best defensive option you have.
Are you sure they didn't play the card? Well, talk about the next card, but I feel like
both of them are like good big attraction points to standby. Like the next one we're going to talk about, helping Windboard earlier.
I feel like
it's just like one of the top end payoffs, right?
Well, I feel like
not
if
that many top end standbys.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like you're gonna commit, and like, I think you usually just choose one to play for the game, especially because this is not an 8 standby deck.
I mean, maybe that might be
unless you get extremely lucky. So sure, and like if you high roll, sure, but I don't think like it's not like that. That's not the kind of thing you would like play a deck for.
Yeah, I don't think this is some be all end all like.
So I think they're playing a deck for one of these cards. I don't think it's this one.
I mean, they play both. I think they played like.
I'm aware they play both, but I'm saying
2/2.
No, I think I agree with him because the game is more around the 1/0 Goblin Slayer than it is around anything at level 2.
Like this card just means you don't like lose the game against certain matchups. It's like a matchup card. Like maybe your matchup against like certain standby decks against the mirror is better if you have this card. But I think most of the time they're not gonna go into this card.
That's fair. I guess the next card we're gonna talk about is definitely a lot more impactful for the main game plan.
And I feel like that's reflected in like their counts because they usually play like 2 to 3 of the global, the Cowgirl Global, whereas this is like
one or
the
two of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about the Cowgirl Global is that it doesn't stop being good. Like you still
Yeah.
want it on
It
Yeah,
field
scales,
all the
that card
it
is
time.
just
scales very
really
well
good.
too.
Yeah, like this you will stand by over it with the witch eventually, probably, but it's
Maybe.
certainly not something you think
Not
too
even
hard
like a sure
about.
thing, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I guess matchup dependent. True. If they're threatening multiple attacks, whatever, which
I
becomes a lot
just
better. But
I just got my Yute order in, and the Sachi event has little baseball bat foils.
yes,
That's
it's amazing.
adorable. Oh, that's great. Anyway, Cowgirl, whereabouts of the two? It's a 216k support. It's a global 1k, making your Goblin Slayers really big for like whenever that is. And then this second ability, which didn't need to be printed, it didn't need to exist at all, but is here anyway. Up to once turn, when you play an event, give a character X power, where X is 500 times the number of your other order characters.
Torch is now at 2k backup. It's
Yes,
Yeah.
why? Who decided that was
It's not even
necessary?
just a 2K backup, right? 2K
It's a
pump too
2k
on your
pump
turn.
Yeah,
whenever.
2K pump, 2K
to
Like,
backup,
anything.
why?
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give
For
it
what
to another lane.
purpose?
So
Who
Cards just-
decided?
card's just really good. Like especially with the standby deck, you put this out, you trigger an early standby, and this card will just like snowball your lanes harder than even like the priestess assist will.
Super pushed synergy, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a
not
super push
only
synergy.
not only does it work well with Torch, but like, I mean, usually your level 1 standby targets are like tutus or like big dudes. But that's not necessarily the case for this deck because your main level 1 attacker, ideally is the combo.
That's important for the reason that the tutus feel really bad to play from hand. Playing this from hand isn't like a big deal
That's
if
also
you have
true.
to.
That's also true.
Yeah,
But the
could
thing that stops me from giving this a higher grade, and probably what stops the rest of you from doing that, is that this is super ridiculous at level 1, but then from that point, it diminishes a lot. Like, it goes from being, what the hell, why is this allowed at level 1, to, I guess that's a, typical support, kind of annoying. And then level 3, it's like there, but it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
It is nice because that second ability is stupid. It's just 2k pump whenever you play
it makes sure you win lane at level
Yeah.
level
Yes.
1.
But the fact of the matter is, I think this card is only obscene, like a higher grade than this, worthy of a higher grade than this, if you stand by it out on the combo turn. Which you obviously can't do because you're comboing, which means you have to trigger it. So there's that. Alternatively, you can be really passive and play your Goblin Slayers and play a standby to get this out if you have no other option. And that's like,
sometimes you win the lane the first time, right? And then you just play the standby the second time, and you're
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm still at 1. I guess I'll just put it on the 4 now.
I mean,
deal
that's
with
the
it again.
optimal. That's optimally what happens, and then you win the
Yeah.
game because then you continue to cancel because you luck sacked super hard. But I think that in that situation, most decks which had their field survive and are in a position to
this
play
is just
standby,
this is like
using it.
super.
It's just secures.
Nice try, buddy.
Yeah,
You're not winning
This
the
card
game
is-
this time.
this card is great.
card
Don't get me
is-
wrong; it's
Card is good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's only above and beyond a regular support for like 1 or 2 turns.
Sometimes those,
That's
Yeah.
what wins you the game. The 2
Like
turns.
obviously, like I rate runners highly. Runners are only good for like 2
Mhm.
turns. Even mill runners are overrated after like the first 2 turns. But like
But it's as long as they're impactful in those 2 turns, it's all that matters,
exactly,
right?
it's level of impact, and this is one of the most impactful field-based cards in the game. Although a lot of it isn't because of this. A lot of it is because of Goblin Slayer.
Yeah.
So whatever. All right, next card. Cowgirl, childhood friend in good health. So this is a brainstorm, and it's also a standby bounce back. And also it has breasts for no real
Yes.
reason.
Cute girl.
It's
does.
pretty lewd climax.
The foil is good for the
Yep.
standby for the standby.
Yep. So when you play the standby, you can pay 1 and bounce to your hand. If you do, stand a character. This is probably useful somewhere, but I think you're probably not going to use it at any you're not going to use it typically. It's just not something that'll happen particularly regularly.
that is true. But
Yeah.
I think so. Sometimes what can happen with a standby deck, especially if standby is something you want to play that turn, One of your lanes usually sucks. Usually. This circumvents that problem because you just play like the 2/2 and attack within me.
Sure.
Sometimes it happens. Obviously, not like in every game. Probably like not even like once every like few games, honestly. But it's nice that it's there on a brainstorm.
Yeah, when you want it, when you need it, it's there. And yeah, it is on one of the more desirable cards, so it's a card you're usually gonna like either look for or whatever. So you'll have it.
You
Cards like
probably
cards
won't be
good.
using that ability later on if you decide you want to summon the Goblin Slayer burner or something. You're not going to do that because it turns off your what's it called? The
Tap counter
Gate of
or
Flood
the
event
bounce
or
counter.
whatever. Yeah, it
Yeah.
turns that off as well. So that's another point against it.
Oh, we
But
don't actually have
it's
that
a
on here, right?
brainstorm. Like,
Unless you trigger a standby. Ooh.
I mean, you can't say much about this. It's a brainstorm.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to say? It's great. It's
Yeah.
stupid.
Tap self to boot. So
like, no pressure on you guys. I just give brainstorms high ratings because
that's fair.
brainstorms are OP.
It is a tap self salvage. Card's good.
All right. Next card. Man, I'm boring. I gave brainstorm the highest rating out of. Oh no, wait.
No,
you
no,
got
you
me.
gave it
higher
a Goblin Slayer combo. You gave it an A.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Priestess, Pure Protector. I remember thinking this card was obscene, and then it was kind of obscene, but then it wasn't. If you have,
good.
if you have Goblin Slayer True Bond in your clock, this gets -1 level in hand. Goblin Slayer True Bond is
The on reverse Rize. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say.
That is definitely a torch.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, so that card is like deck speed plus ditch outlet, which is fine. Basically it's a requirement that you probably won't be unhappy to get. Then when you play it from hand stage, draw 2, ditch 1, consistency for your combo, get a second copy, fantastic. And then when this attacks, if you have the pants in the climax zone, you may check the top card of your deck. If that card is either an order character or an event, then until the next end of your opponent's turn, this gains 1/5 power and the ability at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, all of your opponent's characters get -1 soul for the turn. Yeah, if it goes off, this is one of the strongest cards in the entire metagame. If it doesn't go off or if the metagame is hostile to it, it is significantly worse.
Yeah, card's not very big on defense without actually like
Trying to
sculpting
support
towards it.
It's like 11/5 typically,
I
from
mean,
what I've
like,
seen.
it's not even. It's like, so like for the
11
amount
5,
you
12, 5, yeah.
invested into it, like other decks that invested that much into their board probably could play like super big early plays.
I mean, the way I look at it is like if I compare it to most of the other minus soul deck, like minus soul EPs around, right? Like Amelia and stuff, it's like comparable on power most of the time. And like this card is like just a more desirable minus soul variant than Amelia is. It actually hits everything versus Amelia only hitting 2 cards. Or 2 modular cards, I guess. I guess it can go like 2/1/1 or whatever it wants to do. But I mean, the fact that this card hits more often than not, especially with the Rize existing, this was actually one of the reasons I also played the 1/0 Witch was because this card
The
could just
bomb
make that card
definitely.
better.
Dude, all you have to do is
ensures
play.
that you don't have
If you
misses
play
on top of
Canary, then you won't ever have to worry about that.
And then thank God it also hits on events and not just like Torch, so it becomes a lot more like ubiquitous. So you can just be like, okay, my 6 to whatever 6-7 events aren't just gonna fail me every time I play this card.
It just means that you only have 8 misses, which is.
And
I think
technically you only have 7, right?
impactful.
Because you're playing one of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely impactful.
Yeah. And it draws for its own climax. Its climax is also a pants, so it's like really easy to actually loop this card when it sticks. I wish its DP condition was a little bit better because having this DP condition when you get punched to like late 2 from like 1 feels like really bad. But,
only fielding one of these usually feels kind of bad.
I mean,
right?
if you're gonna field one, you just don't field it at all.
Yeah. So like it's a lot of sculpting you have to do if you want to
That's what makes
get
the ditch
value
CX
out of
salvage good.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of support cards that help this deck sculpt for its pieces, which is very nice. I wouldn't necessarily say this is the de facto. Like, I wouldn't say this is like the play for English necessarily, but it's one of the choices. Like, I wouldn't look at somebody crazy for playing Priestess over like Standby. But
Yeah, I think that Priestess certainly has a lot more lopsided
it
matchups than
will
Standby does.
definitely bully out Swiss more often than Standby will. I think.
I think that's an absolute. I think that's guaranteed. But I also think that there's going to be player quality involved, and if you're a good enough player, you don't have to rely on Priestess to beat people with
Yeah,
Goblin
you're still
Slayer.
bullying them out with Goblin Slayer level 1 combo, all the same.
Yeah.
Just not as like heavy-handedly, like with the 2-1 assist. But
I
you're
think it's
also bullying them
super
later on,
stable.
where like in a way that Standby doesn't.
Yeah, you just get bodied by all the Fate players,
Yeah, it'd
of
be
which
like
there are
that.
like 5 total. All right. Yeah, card is decent, but I think that if you play it too often, your opponents like adapt to you. It's really not good.
Yeah, it's good in
I,
like a blind event versus like a locals where you're gonna keep playing it over and over.
mm-hmm. Next card, Priestess, Gentle Cleric. This is a search brainstorm, and it has the secondary ability of if you're trigger checking this event, give a character 2k for the turn. I'm gonna give this the same grade as the Salvage Brainstorm, but I think it's slightly worse because
I think
this
it's
is a
better.
deck.
I think it's
You
only
think it's
better
better?
because of the name. Like you'd only run this.
Yeah.
You only run this card because the name is relevant.
I mean, it's Priestess.
For like
I mean,
the
I just
cards
feel like
later.
its effect is relevant a bit more, like not like relevant, but it's active a bit more often than the
I
Salvage
think
Brainstorm, right?
the first effect's kind of like Saki most of the time.
Yeah, I
Is
think
it?
I
You're
agree.
playing like
Yeah.
6 to 7 events. Like this
Well,
will
most of those are
probably
going to be in your hand, though.
I
Well,
mean, I guess
this
this
is
will
gonna
happen more
Right.
often though
this is
than
for the
like
standby build, right? Because like the Priestess deck does not really
This isn't
care about that.
This isn't any deck that running the event.
yeah, in
Sure,
Priestess.
We'll talk
like,
about the
for
event
the
later,
event.
but basically, I feel
Yeah,
like the
a bit
only
more
reason to
Saki in
run
Priestess,
this
but
is if you need like color. One, color. Color is important. Two, the name. That's it. Those are
I
the
mean,
only reasons why I play this card over.
I do not feel that the event that we're talking about gets run
It
in
does.
Priestess. Like, I don't think it
Oh, in
should be run in
Priestess?
Priestess.
Well, I don't know
and
about
I don't
that.
think Priestess.
like-
Some Priestess players run. It's like an optional card.
I
It's
do
not like
not think you have the
a mandatory
resources to
card.
do
You
that
probably
routinely.
don't.
You
But in
really
like the
don't.
other
But
variants of Goblin Slayer,
in
you definitely...
standby and door, you should be playing this. You should
Yeah,
be
this
playing
is better.
this
This is better than the
event.
standby deck, 100%.
Yeah,
But
ironically.
yeah,
But,
from a typical point of view, in a deck that has access to 2 or more copies of Torch, the Salvage Brainstorm is probably just better.
Like
it's
most
just
of
like I don't know. I guess I
Goblin
just
Slayer
look at
decks
it as
nowadays.
like that sometimes this effect will activate more often because, like you said, like the salvage brainstorm only happens every couple games, like once every couple games, right? It's not even like a
Yeah, but the Brainstorm
thing.
itself, I think, is actually better when you have a fair amount of command
I guess
mill.
that's true. You're milling a lot, so
Yeah, like you're milling a
that's
lot,
fair.
and if you're playing Priestess, you also have the on-reverse Rize, which is
Yeah, I guess
more
that's fair. There, you will have a more often a bigger grave than some decks
yeah,
will.
and
So you
not
appreciate
only
the
that,
salvage.
like it actually has so much mill. I think you can hold Torch events through your mill, like through your refresh, and then fill your graveyard up really easily. Which
That's
is
fair.
why
I
I
didn't
think that
consider
one's
that.
slightly better. But look, on name, yes, you need Priestess for
Priestess.
the
event.
I
Heal
don't remember
5
how much it
event.
heals. It
Heal
heals a
5.
lot.
Heal 5.
Kill
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, solid card. I don't think anyone disagrees.
Yeah.
All right. Next card, Sword Maiden, Beloved Archbishop. This is a 0015, and on attack gives something give an order character rather 1/5 power, which gets your Goblin Slayers over most
It
obstacles.
gets this to tie with Chaser, which is very funny.
Oof.
It's very
the
funny.
Chaser Alter a lot of
It's
cards,
very
too.
amusing.
And then at the start of the Encore step, if you have no other rested characters in front, you may pay them to save it.
I give. Yeah,
Chaser, you gave a B plus.
I'll give this a B.
Mm.
I think I mentioned it before, I think in the Uta thing, but like being able to power pumps during the attack phase that can target themselves are super good in general. I think it like makes it has like a very interesting scaling effect where you can play a lot of zeros. You can like it makes a lot of other zeros playable, no matter what the meta is. If that makes sense. Very
Well, I
meta
mean,
portable.
it makes every other level 0 like
Yeah, better.
much.
Yeah, which is
Like
why I like
Avenger.
it so much. I like it. I like it a lot. It's like
I mean,
I-
this is fine.
I
I definitely
really
underrated this card.
I really like this card in tandem with the chaser because, like as you said, yeah, it lets you the chaser get over things. It's also like it can pump itself too, which is relevant. So like it can also help clearing lanes, and with this and the chaser out, I mean you're usually pretty much guaranteed to plus because either the chaser's going to run something that can't kill it, or this will just be able to encore and survive.
This card's good. It's
also
better.
scales into level
it-
1.
Yeah, and also it's
Priestess
also on
can't
name
win,
for the
though,
event.
for the most part, but
Also
Priestess can't afford to actually like spend this stock for the pluses, whereas the other two versions can. So I think that's why I underrated this card a lot because I was pretty just high on Priestess, especially when the set first came out. So I was like, "Oop, this card spend stock. I'm not interested in this." But it ends up
I
just
mean,
being a
if
good
you
profile
have
to have.
Dyson memory, then you don't have any stock issues, right?
True.
All right, let's talk about the next card. This is actually
Controversial
surprisingly-
card.
Yeah,
It's a very
surprisingly
controversial
For
card.
some reason,
Taking damage is a misplay.
it is beyond me.
Yeah, so hand to stage, Sword Maiden. When it's played from hand to stage, you can pay 1, clock yourself. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 character with Goblin Slayer in name, add it to your hand, shuffle the deck. So basically,
Gets your level 1
this
combo.
this gets the
Uncommon
whole
Reiki,
thing that
Like
It's
a
an
bunch of other
uncommon.
random stuff, like
Yeah,
your
it gets you
energy
early play.
counter, gets
you
early
don't need
play.
you don't need to talk about any of that. It just gets the card your deck is
Yeah,
building.
it gets the best. It gets
combo.
the best card in the
You know,
deck.
even if you decided, if you're sacking and you already have 3 Goblin Slayer in your hand, this even gets the Chaser for like more powerful level 0
Yeah.
plays. So, why aren't you running 4? Please run. Please run 4.
So like
no,
I guess
just
the argument.
don't run 4. You don't have to run 4. Just keep on being,
Please run
beholden to Japan. They're
It's on name for an extremely powerful event
the
we're going to
event.
talk about in like 10 minutes or something.
So
also
like the
blue?
argument
That you
the
can
argument
level?
is that the deck already has the tools to usually grab the cards it needs, and it's hard to find room to play
is
this
true.
card with so much good utility the set already has.
However,
I mean, this
think
isn't just
it
utility.
is
This
true
is just
that-
extraordinarily powerful.
I feel like like
and the fact that this doesn't grab like some of your other good level 1 good cards that
Yeah,
you
like
want to
the
be playing,
priest,
and
like
one
the
like
card
the
we're gonna talk
Priestess
about next.
Global,
But
yeah, the next card, or your Brainstorm, or your
Card is
it
definitely
frees
good.
up your other cards to get those cards.
yeah, that's actually probably
It's an
I would
argument
agree
to
with
make,
that.
Yeah, I mean,
And additionally, Goblin Slayer being like a field-based deck, controlling level 0, like controlling when you level up, is extremely important. I think like the importance of being able to do that, I think people realized it more generally with Fate. Because being able to clock yourself on command is just so powerful. And this deck especially does care when it hits level 1, depending on the matchup. So, I don't know. I feel like I can understand and empathize with the sentiment that decks that have to run 4 of like events at level 1 do find themselves struggling to like run everything that they want. I don't think this is a card that should be skipped out on.
like I definitely
Cut
don't
other
agree
things.
with Japan just playing none of this card and being like,
Well,
no,
they play 1. No, it's even worse. They
Yeah.
play 1 or something. It's so insane. Like,
yeah, like
that's-
that is just like that's like outrageous to me. Playing 3 is like at least you're playing the card at a high number.
I think 3 is only
Um,
acceptable to me if there's like some amount of drop searching. I understand people do.
Yeah, the drop searcher
Yeah.
is a pretty good card. I'm surprised we didn't actually put it on here, but forgot about it. But yeah, I mean like this card's just good. You should be playing this card.
Please run 4.
It's an uncommon.
We
It's
start
actually
with
rarity
4.
crept. Like the fact that this card's an uncommon is actually is like just ridiculous to me. But
Taking damage is a misplay, dude.
yeah. Riki
Right.
suck. Just print them in just print them in every set. Just punish sets by giving it to them at this point.
Please don't print it in every set. I would hate a game where that is the case. Oh my god.
Dude, but it
Like,
sucks. So like
why
There
it
was
just
a
why
time
punishes
when a lot of good decks
a lot of sets were getting it in a row.
that
Yeah.
had Ricky, like 2017.
Like when ReZero came out, right? Like that year.
ReZero, Rewrite.
Just everything was just
Rewrite.
getting
I
pumped
mean,
out with
Rewrite already
Rikis,
had
just-
it. Puyo had
Yeah,
it.
but like it became like relevant.
Chain Chronicle had it.
Well, like, but that was like the time. That was
Charlotte.
like the time span where like all these sets were just
Charlotte had
pumping
it.
out Rikis in their set. So it's
keep in
like,
mind,
Suva had, like,
design departments work at like generally half a year to a year in advance.
yeah. So they
So
made the
Strike
card for a
had
bunch of
it.
sets, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Strike had it.
Oh, well.
Kimono had like a own version.
The Kaban, yeah.
It's 2020 and we have to talk about why Ricky is good because people are
I mean, a lot of sets
with
stopped
the
getting
idea.
it too, right? Like
True.
Oh,
a lot of
gosh.
newer players, they
Or-
they
or it's
might have been
usually,
playing stuff
like,
with Riki.
Different timing, or it's a salvage Ricky. Those are becoming
Yeah,
popular.
but like
to
nothing is
print.
comparable to actual Ricky. Even this isn't comparable to actual Ricky. This is like
Yeah, the
maybe
selection
only 80,
is the
Well,
selection is
80%
gives
as
is
effective
You
as
know,
an
if
actual
your
Ricky.
deck was literally, what is it,
Priestess.
38 Goblin Slayer cards,
You wouldn't be saying anything. That is
this would
terrible.
be probably better.
Yeah, I mean the
No,
fact
this
that
is
this does
better.
search, the fact
It
that this
gets level
searches
3s.
any Goblin Slayer is pretty relevant.
Yeah. They're
Because
good
you have
Goblin
things like
Slayer
the
cards. They're
TD.
good Goblin Slayer cards. It's not like they're
yeah, like you
not
said,
like
your
the
Actually,
combo.
Goblin Slayer was the brainstorm.
so it's not like the combo is the only thing you
any
get
change.
Oh,
that
look,
is, like,
let's be
card.
real. You get the combo like
most of the time.
probably
90%
90%
of the time.
I
or
agree.
more
Yeah.
of the time.
But it's the fact that you have access to actually like impactful Goblin Slayer cards as options, right? That it's like
Mm.
It just
okay,
increases the playability of this card well past like level 1, I think.
yeah, agreed.
Depends. It obviously a pretty situational play to take damage at like level 2 and beyond, but
Hey man, like when you had like 2 to 3 turns at level 1, you'll survive.
Alright, next card is Priestess, Virtuous Maiden. This card is the budget version of Cowgirl, and I say budget because it means you don't have to play standby for it to be good. You don't have to invest any stock to play it from hand, and it is less effective overall. But for specifically the Priestess build of Goblin Slayer, I think this is probably just better.
probably.
I mean,
More
yeah,
blue, too.
you play this card in the Priestess version 100%.
Yeah, it's because it's
It gives you the
efficient.
same impact. Yeah, it gives you the same impact as that card, more
Here's
or
the-
less.
when it
Here's the
matters.
crazy play. Play this and the 2-1
And that-
global,
yeah, I mean-
Cowgirl Global in your
Ooh.
standby lists.
Yeah, and then when you hit standby, you just replace
Easy.
it.
No, you
Yeah,
no
yeah.
what? You play put
play
both
both
of them.
and say-
Put both
wait,
of them
say
in your back row.
Brainstorm suck. Just go bah. 9K Goblin Slayers, 8K Goblin Slayer, AK.
I used to think this card was super overspec. I still think it's pretty overspec for like a card of this type.
Like a global
But
defense, whatever.
pumps
The
two
art's
characters.
The art's something.
I'm not super high on this card. I said that it's fantastic in the Priestess build, but a card that's only good in one build, and this isn't like good in the build. It's just
Well, they played
good
in the
enough.
in the 8-gate build too.
yeah,
I mean,
Okay.
like
They played
this
in
card's
Midfield.
like
Sure.
this
Every
card's
deck,
pretty.
every deck that can't cheat the 2-1 in.
This card's like pretty integral to like the game plan you want to play, right? Like you want to wall out with the Goblin Slayer, and this lets you
Yeah.
hit the power line to make sure that it happens.
Yeah,
I agree. I think this is
good
one of the
in-
cards that really started putting
yeah.
people on that line.
All right. You guys talk me over it. This is good enough in those various decks.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Good.
they just announced
Next
even
card.
more regionals are getting canceled.
Yeah,
Yeah, New York gone.
Atlanta, New York, and
Toronto
Toronto are
gone.
canceled,
Unfortunate.
and some EU regionals.
And
At
Illinois.
least it's only trios.
Oh yeah, well that was already canceled.
Oh, it was. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that was.
Yeah, at least it's only trios for now. But sad.
Mm,
Now we get to talk about the most exciting card.
I'm surprised
This
you
card's
guys
pretty-
haven't you guys didn't put the gate scroll in here.
Yeah, I was surprised too.
Gate Scroll.
I
The
think the
counter?
bounce event.
The
I
bounce
think
event.
that card kind of sucks, to be honest.
No,
I
that
do as
card, that
well,
card.
but like it's like super hyped, so I thought we'd talk about it. Anyway.
We can talk about it.
I think that card is definitely overrated, but like, yeah.
It's definitely like people are more scared of it than it
I
actually
think
is like super
just,
broken, but it's
it's
good.
It's
just
definitely
like,
more useful as a threat. Yeah, as you said, it's more useful as like a threat.
Its existence is already most of its impact, I think.
Yes, I agree.
yeah.
And
like most people don't feel play one of, so like if they don't see it, they're just like,
I mean,
oh, man.
it literally
they
you could just like play it and search for it with your early play and be like, hey,
no,
this card.
Well, they also
Now you
play
have to
that,
bounce
they
some
also
of my
play the
cards.
other events. They play the other event, like the knapsack or whatever. That can get either torch or
I
yes.
don't get the point of playing that when you can just play more gate scrolls.
because you don't want more gate scrolls.
You don't want to play more games.
Yeah, you only want.
But,
You
like,
only want.
I mean,
No, because the 2-0 event is like torch. If you
it's
don't
like,
want
oh,
gate
this
scroll.
is my torch every time.
like a fourth, yeah, sure, but like,
It's like a fourth copy of the
fifth
mill torch.
torch, second
it is
gate
very
scroll,
extra,
sure.
I think.
I think so as well. But anyway, this one is powerful event. 3/4. If you can you
wanna
can
read the
sack
name
Sword
to us?
Maiden. You can do that if you want.
Miracle of the Shared Bed, Virgin Resurrection.
Yeah.
Resurrection is in quotes. You know what's being resurrected? We're not entirely sure, but you know.
Well, I mean, he died effectively,
Wait,
but then he
Almost.
Wait, is that Goblin Slayer's leg?
Yeah, that's his
It's his
arm.
arm.
That's his arm.
Oh, it's his
Yeah, so
arm.
he gets like
Yo,
Yeah.
I thought it was a leg.
no in the level one,
which
in the
makes
level
this
one
art
combo
so
art.
lewd.
No, in the level
Yeah,
one
that's the
combo
point.
art, when he's like fighting for his life or whatever, this is the aftermath of that.
What the hell did you think the previous card was? Like,
Yeah. Oh, this is also that. Yeah, this is that scene where
Yeah.
she wakes up and it's like, oh,
I like the flavor text.
this is like they put him
Dame.
against some obnoxiously strong orc or
Eh.
whatever, and then he rolls like 5 20s in a row, and
he
then
just strangles it with hair and then just
and he still doesn't die, and then he gets revived because I don't know, virgin
goes
magic.
virgin.
Yeah, so you sack a
Virgin
sword
magic.
you sack a sword maiden and you sack a priestess and put them
Oh
in the
no,
waiting
sorry.
room.
No, it's not sack, it's
it's
discard,
not
right?
sack. Sorry,
It's
they
ditch.
They actually typoed the
Yeah, it's
text
discard.
translation and not the website translation.
Sorry, it's from hand. Sorry.
Yeah.
From your hand, this has never been played against me for the record. I've just never seen this be used. When this is played, you can discard a sword maiden and discard a priestess. If you do, heal up to 5.
Sick.
And then
Yeah.
this goes to memory.
Yeah.
The set doesn't really have
As a
any
it has
Fate
like
feelers,
player,
so
I approve.
Yeah, it has a similar feel to the 3/3 event. It's not like as easy to play as either like in the same way though, but it's also, healing 5 is a lot.
I'm sure as an execution player, you also approve.
I mean, you can't loop this as easily as
I mean,
You can't
that's
bomb
true.
quite as
Oh,
easily.
man.
Funnily enough, that is true. I think.
You'd think that I'm being stupid because executions are 3-7 event or something.
3-8.
But
Yeah,
3-8,
but you also
Well-
build. But when you're playing execution, you're building towards execution. where you're not building towards this card.
15
You're like,
stock routinely. It's like,
well, yeah,
whatever.
and
You
in
don't
this
have to
deck, you're
build
like,
towards this card, right? This is
No,
a
that's the
card
thing.
that's like,
yeah,
since it's 4 stock is actually kind of
For how
Achievable.
specific the card is, it's surprisingly incidental. You can just kind of play it.
Yeah, I agree. You also have like
Yeah.
super good access to this card because you.
yeah.
We not
I
get
mean,
that card?
Do you,
You basically
know what,
just grab this card whenever you
we didn't put the
want.
Goblin Slayer EP.
You know what-
in this
do you know
one,
what
we
No
didn't
sets
one
put
this
put
the
card
that
up?
in their.
I
top cards.
thought I did.
Do you
I-
want to know what sets this card up
Oh, you
super
did?
I
well?
forgot it.
The
Yeah.
freaking peaceful moment cowgirl.
Sorry. Peaceful. Wait, what?
Yeah, boy.
What? What did you say?
The double ditch salvage sets this up.
Sure.
Grab 2 of them.
That is technically true.
I mean, it's strictly true. I don't see how it could be false. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Wait a
sure.
second.
All right.
Wait 1 second.
Net-
We have to talk about the early play. I screwed up.
No, we don't.
They're
We have a
the
far
radios,
more interesting
right?
card to talk about.
Well, we have to talk about this first and then
E
that.
minus.
No, we don't. Oh.
Yes, we do.
It's
I
a
guess
good. It's a good card.
the early play searches for this card, so I guess we
Alright,
will
man.
talk about the early play.
Sorry. It's
Well,
number
this hasn't-
34.
Oh, okay. I see what happened here.
Wait, no, not. Oh, this is no. This,
22.
oh,
He
No,
he
no,
just
no, no.
copied the slide and replaced the picture.
I was thinking of the wrong Goblin Slayer level 3. Wait, was I? No, I was. This is the right
You're good.
one.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm not insane. Right, so if you have 4 more order trait characters, this Goblin Slayer gets -1 level in hand. During your turn, for each other order character, it gets 500 power, so 11/5 on attack. And when you play it from hand to stage, you can ditch a card from hand to waiting room to search one event. So obviously you get a copy of dice, because only he's allowed to roll the dice.
See, perfect segue. But like,
Damn.
This card is solid.
Cards are.
Yeah.
It helps, you know.
Good
It's a role player,
condition.
right?
gets your like powerful events into hand. Also,
Yeah, it's
discard
like for
outlet.
both of the two one-of events, so it's pretty.
Also,
solid.
kind of big on attack. 11/5.
Yeah,
is pretty big,
I
actually.
appreciate how big it is on attack. Actually,
That's actually.
Yeah.
Like
It's a good
kind of
EP.
Respect. I feel like it's kind of over. But
The foil art for this card is also really cool looking.
not just PS2.
What? No. I thought it was cool.
I do.
Oh,
think
I think
the
I saw a
foil
really
art is
shitty
cool.
version of.
Yeah, I thought the foil art was.
I have the
I
deck
thought
box of the
it
foil
was
art.
so
Looks pretty
pixelated.
cool.
I thought it was like shitty PS2 3D.
It'd be like that, but yeah, this is just like it's a good role player because it lets you play only one of the two like
Yeah.
top end events, which is like really nice.
You could grab like a torch if you really need to like mill out,
Yikes.
It's true.
Or
Or you
so
could
it's
get
fun.
the move
Or
torch.
or
You
yeah,
need to
or
kill
pull
something.
something up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the amount of selection this gives you because you're playing so many different types
Yeah.
of events.
There's
is
not really
cool.
like a lot of like event tutors in Weiss that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong about
what's
that.
the-
Kimono has one. GGO
Persona
has
has
one.
one. Persona has one. It's
For
so
Kimono
bad,
and
bro.
GGO are both early plays. GGO is a pay one
Yeah.
on play, and the Kimono is the same as this. Ditch
Okay.
card search.
Yeah, well,
It puts it
Personas
under
is
as a
on a level.
marker
Is on level
first, and
3.
That's
then
also
you
true.
get it.
Well, like, I mean,
So you get the ditch
Yeah.
later.
yeah.
It is nice.
Kind of
This,
cool actually.
this card does enable you to like not have to play as many copies of your events, so you can because you can just grab whenever you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, good card. What's the EP condition on the Cowgirl EP? Was it 2 or
Two or
less?
less CX.
Okay.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, both of them are good conditions, and you get both. You get access to both, especially in standby. So, good cards.
Okay, now we're on to the best card in the set.
Yeah.
Only Goblin Slayer
You know,
gets to
under
roll
meta
these.
impact because it's going to have a huge impact on the meta. Watch
You
out
know,
for this card.
normally White is not a game where you get to play with dice. Unlike Pokemon and unlike Magic and all those games, well, we now have the ability to play with dice. Seikoro, which is the
It
1/1
means
yellow event.
Dungeon dice monsters. That's what it translates to.
Oh god.
I don't want. Is this like the Game Boy Advance game, Dungeon Dice Monsters? 'Cause that
No,
was
it's
a
the
Wow.
IRL
It's a board game.
Real life.
Oh
Dude.
boy. Alright, so at the beginning of your main phase, if this is in memory, by the way, when you play this card, you just send it to memory, nothing else happens. All players reveal the top card of their deck. In this, if it's a multiplayer game, then everyone does, you know?
You gotta gamble even harder.
If every card revealed is level 0 or lower character, you lose 1 stock. But if every character revealed is level 3 or higher and it's a character, you get to choose up to 4 cards in your waiting room and put them into your stock.
Cards. Not
Yes, so
characters or
climaxes
traits.
and
Yeah, you
events.
can put climaxes.
You can play
in
this
there.
in standard, by the way.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so this is
Whoa.
a once you've got all 4 set up, this generates
Oh,
you
yeah, dude.
16 stocks. No,
It's plus 15 for the first turn. No, sorry. It's plus 12.
no.
Plus 12
It's
for
plus
the first
12
turn.
the first time,
Yeah.
And
and
then
plus
and then
16 every
yeah,
play
yeah,
onwards.
And
And
it
as,
was
you, as
three?
everyone knows,
or it's
card advantage
minus
stock is
4
directly comparable to card advantage. So this is a plus 12 once you've got 4
Very
in.
strong.
Wait, I thought one hand was worth 2 stock, effectively.
No,
like 1.5
'cause
to 2.
I'm
depending on the
memeing,
card.
dude. Stop ruining my name. Anyway, this is my Uwu card this time. Because I can't believe they printed this. Like this is a bigger meme than friggin' Tanaka's Black Market. Like
Oh,
Yeah, why can't Persona get me cards like this? This set has everything.
mm,
all attack was
This
pretty.
set actually has everything. It has the super stupid endgame, like super expensive endgame deck. It has actual good cards, and then it has cards like this. They're just stupid. Sorry,
This
not
is
stupid.
everything.
Yeah, it is everything. It's not fair.
OP, OP.
OP. Okay, Meta Impact.
Meta Impact.
Surprisingly less played than I
Yeah,
think most people might have been expecting, but that might be just the Bang Dream effect, honestly. At the beginning
I think-
of 2019, then later in
I think it was, like-
2019, like definitely fell off the radar.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of what happened was like, so in the beginning was when they weren't playing standby. Like that was when like the rise of the it was just 8 gate
The
priestess.
standby
It was like
meta.
a 50-50 people playing standby, people playing 8 gate, people playing priestess. Standby wasn't even like really looked at. And so it kind of fell behind in like the super standby heavy meta because it wasn't playing in a part of it. So it was kind of just the Goblin Slayer couldn't actually survive. And then later on when it transitioned, it was part of the
Ah,
whole
yeah.
meta of
Fate.
where standby wasn't allowed to thrive. So it kind of transitioned too late to kind of catch the train,
I think
which
it
was
also
unfortunate.
probably loses pretty badly to Review. I think that's another like.
Oh yeah, probably. Lalafin can actually just body over
Yeah,
Goblin Slayer
that
if they
gets
don't
really
high roll.
big on it. Also, it gets big
Yeah.
on offense and defense. So
Yeah,
Um,
Lalafin, if it hits the counter, feels like an actually insane card as well. In a similar vein as what Goblin Slayer tries to do.
Saikano can like largely ignore. Like you can like side.
Yeah, just twin drive side, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares? Saikano doesn't care.
Bang Dream is Bang Dream. Like, it always exists. Fate, as we talked about, kind of just bodies Goblin Slayer in a lot of ways, and it's a pretty unfun matchup. I don't think it does too poorly against like BB and stuff, except for if it tries to compress, BB can bully it with the stock swap Fumio and everything. But yeah, I think it just transitioned to the standby variant just too late to like really do anything with it. I think if it had transitioned sooner, we would have seen probably better overall results. I feel like. I think it's gonna do well in English though. It's the boogeyman, and so being the boogeyman, a lot of people picked it up. So I think we can expect it quite a bit.
also very
It
popular.
it was played a lot in trios though. I didn't actually realize how popular Goblin Slayer was in
yes.
trios.
Well, kind of.
I guess
First half,
I
it's
guess
like the same story as singles. First half of the year, super popular, like very popular.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're
then
right.
drops off a lot.
That's when it came out. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was like
Uh,
because as a third deck, I guess it's pretty good as like a
probably
if you're gonna play
became-
3 decks.
It probably went from being like the 1 or 2 deck to being
Mhm.
like the third deck later.
Yeah, the 3 maybe 3 deck. Because again, it's like if I get paired against like if you level 5 Sunshine too, will just actually body it out because they're just gonna play so many 1/1s. It's like I can only I can only stay alive for so long.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunate for Goblin Slayer.
Do you guys think Goblin Slayer is poised to make a comeback in 2020 in JP? Don't talk about English.
With Fate being hit, I think it has like a pretty decent chance. That's probably one of its like worst matchups. I think if like Sunshine or like Psychono maybe were to get hit, then I think like the resurgence would probably be more warranted. And I think those are 2 decks that are probably likely to get hit on the next ban list.
Do you think if those decks get hit, do you think like maybe the standby meta might just end up coming back, which would bully Goblin Slayer out again?
Maybe. I feel like a lot of decks are tech. I personally just feel like standby meta is kind of like not relevant anymore because people are ready for it. People know how to deal with it, and it's like it's harder to like justify now, especially because I feel like a lot of decks are getting the on play bouncer stuff like that, like the things that answer the harder cards to deal with standby. But I mean, I think if standby meta were to come back, it would just fit at home in it anyway. So
I think it would do better in a stand than like
because you're playing AK costless cards. and not every deck is Sunshine playing 8/1/1s, just being like, yeah, whatever, I
True.
don't care. So like it would do a lot better than something like Overlord, because I think Overlord's actually the worst standby deck in a standby meta, but yeah, that's how I feel about it at least.
All right.
No, seems decent. I didn't even need to say anything.
More, yeah. More than,
Yeah.
a little
I
more
mean,
than decent.
I think it's gonna be a bugbear in English. Just
Yeah.
is.
I think
Is
it's
it
in English at
broken?
least. I think it's top 3,
Probably not. But
top 3, top
It'll
5
probably
in
definitely
English.
get plenty of tops.
I mean, look, it's gonna have more play than Fate for what that's worth.
Well, I mean, it's been ordered
well,
more.
that's
No one has the
because
odds.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Fate. Most of all, because the supply is like
Hmm.
this is like a single set deck. No?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with like a handful of older cards, but it's like the older cards are like really big playmakers in the deck, though, right? Like the
cards?
Avenger and
No,
the.
I'm talking about
Oh,
Goblin
you mean Goblin
Slayer.
Slayer?
It is a single
Oof,
set deck. You
oof,
just buy
oh,
one
okay.
set and you have the deck, right?
I
You
get what you're
cannot
saying.
say the
Yeah.
same about Fate. It's like
Yeah. You have to go hunt for cards, especially with how expensive they got. Ugh.
Yep. Avenger went from a $2 rare to $15.
No, Avenger was 50 cents when I bought him. That was card wasn't even $2. But yeah,
so we
I think.
predict
Good.
it will be super boogeyman status. English. Probably
Yeah.
pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Comeback maybe in JP. Probably not. Because it seems like it's dependent.
Movie set.
Very dependent on like what happens with the ban list. But it might be a dark horse.
Dude,
Might
movie
be.
set.
Yeah, a
Trust.
movie set would definitely.
Right. Is there a movie?
There's a movie that
Yeah,
just
like
Yes,
came
there
the
out.
is.
winter
Franchise.
movie.
Yeah, the series kind of sucks, but the deck is
Yeah.
pretty fun to
The
play.
movie
So
has like
movie set could
a
happen.
noble fencer, I think her name is.
It has the Yusha in it too, I think, but who? I don't think I
Yes.
actually got a card. But yeah, I mean, they could get another set. They could get like an EB or something, since we saw that the ReZero's getting an EB, so they're back to doing those, I guess. But after not putting one since Godzilla,
I think Godzilla was the
Yeah.
last one.
yeah, it could get more support. It'd probably be trait restricted though, like every other movie set that isn't named
Yeah, like
Konosuba.
Konosuba, right?
This deck doesn't need.
It doesn't. It's in the same vein, I think, with
Uh,
like ReZero, and ReZero got its second set, where it was like, how much can you actually give this like set to be impactful? Goblin Slayer just needs the right meta, I think, to flourish, as opposed to more cards.
I mean, I think it's good in any meta. That's like the reason it's good.
Well, to really like flourish and be like a top rep, especially in Japanese where there's so many options
Sure,
for decks
fair
to
enough.
play. Yeah, so that's good.
Okay. Good beats. I think we covered most of what's important. Anyone have any closing thoughts on a set that's been probably done to death?
I'm good. Priestess is the best girl.
Rage.
Yeah, I think Cowgirl is too, actually. Actually, is she? No, I think Cowgirl's actually 20 because Goblin Slayer's 20.
It's
So
all
oops.
about high elf, yo.
Is that supposed to be a
Shit.
spoiler?
No, no, I
Okay.
made a mistake. Like I tried to call her underage and she's not. But
All right. Before we close out, shoutouts. Any special mentions? For anybody out there, White Day just passed. Not that
yeah,
any of us celebrate White Day, but
it's a thing.
the floor is yours. Any shoutouts?
No, I'm good.
No, actually, no, not really. No real shout outs.
My
Okay.
locals is dead, so
Shout
thanks,
outs
Corona.
to
Yeah,
Step
shout
up
outs
to
to
coronavirus.
coronavirus, I guess.
stay safe,
Oh.
everybody.
Yeah.
Nice. Stay safe, all.
Wait, was that it? No, we're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Stay safe.
Okay.